All right. I'll call this April 1st, 2021 meeting of the Environmental Management Policy Committee to order. If we can all stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Or I think I got a flag here.
Oh, for my flag.
Here we go. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Right.
Oh,
How do you want to do introductions here?
oh, that we don't normally do introductions. I think on the Zoom meetings it doesn't work very well. Let's look if anyone's on the phone. I do like to ask those folks to introduce themselves, but I don't see anyone on the phone.
Either. Looks like everybody's got their name.
Everyone's got their name
listed.
up, or most of their name.
Great.
So,
all right. Did everyone have a chance to look at the meeting minutes last time? Are there any motions on the?
I'll move to approve the minutes of January 7th.
Is there a second?
Second.
All right, Susan, thank you. All right, we have a motion and a second. Any discussion? All those in favor signify by saying aye.
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 Opposed,
wait, I
no.
think we have. Do we still have to do a roll call vote?
Oh, do we? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay.
Oh, yes, I think.
Yeah.
Okay, you're right. Okay, roll call on the minutes, and that'll be an introduction too, I suppose. Too,
Yeah.
right?
Flora, do you have the list handy?
I do.
Okay.
Can you guys hear me well?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, great. Thank you.
Recall that you're all muted, so if you hear your name, you have to unmute to say aye, or I suppose nay if you don't like the minutes.
Okay. Jeff Benson,
Aye.
thank you. Jan Babst,
Aye.
thank you. Mary Tanis, Mike Rosenbaum, Anthony Hendricks, Bill Emerson,
Yes.
thank you. Kevin Bretsky, Jocelyn Denham, Jennifer Gonzala, Richard Morris Rowe, Brenda Scott Henry,
Yes.
thank you. George Topple,
Yes.
thank you. Wendy Miss, Sarah Nimitz,
Yes.
thank you. Michael Coos,
Cuss. He's not here.
Cuss, I'm sorry.
It's okay.
And I have Tim Kingsland from Hobart as well.
Nope,
All
he's
right,
not here.
that totals 6.
No, you also do the organizations.
Okay, let's keep moving forward.
Mhm.
George Mellis, Reggie Corthals, Ellen Zarletta, Nicole Barker, Brian Cordum, Kay Nelson.
Here.
Thank you. Chandra Viswanatha, Natalie Johnson, Christopher Kraus, Lori Cagle.
Aye.
Thank you. Deb Backus, Susan Mahalo.
Yes.
Thank you. Daniel Goldfarb. Okay. Kathy, I don't do the state of and
No,
federal
not the
agencies.
no. They're non-voting. Thank you, Flora.
Thank you.
All right.
That totals 9.
All right. The minutes are approved and passed unopposed. Thank you. Anyone from the public on the call that would like to speak. You have 3 minutes. You got everybody here if you want to. All right.
Gonna look in the chat.
Oh, good point.
Oh, Dahlia is sharing the Michigan City greenhouse gas inventory link, report link. So if anyone wants to look for that.
I don't see that
in the chat. Oh,
that may have been just to you.
okay. Okay. I had meant to share it.
Okay.
Well,
okay.
I will figure that out.
Thanks. All right. So anyone else from the public? Okay. Hearing none. Close the public comment section. And we will move on if you're ready, Kathy. And just a brief, I always have to say that I'm really impressed and happy with NERPC and Kathy and everyone's commitment to, the resilience project and the greenhouse gas inventory. And especially this year when things have been so difficult to go ahead and take that on. It's just a huge benefit, and I know it's helped Lake County out quite a bit, and I really appreciate it. But I'll let you speak, but I wanted to say that before you did.
Okay, thank you. I did just put in the chat the link to the Michigan City greenhouse gas inventory report for later in the meeting. So I think I mentioned this earlier, but we ended up, as you know, we all voted to apply for the IU Environmental Resiliency Institute 2021 Climate Fellow Program, and we were selected for the project. Thank you very much to Northwest Indiana Region Resilience, and Earth Charter, who did most of the work for that. We have 14 jurisdictions that committed to the project, including all 3 counties. And in LaPorte County, also the city of LaPorte. In Porter County, also the city of Valparaiso and the town of Chesterton. And in Lake County, Cedar Lake, East Chicago, Lake Station, Merrillville, Munster, Highland, Hobart, and Cherville. Is that 14? I think that's everybody. Yeah. So we have a lot of communities doing it. So we have sent out to all of the communities, we all kind of a reminder, okay, but now we need to know who your technical contact is. You should be getting an invoice from ICLEI, so to get the software program, and it's not a program, but the software site, and we look forward to working with you. As a part of that, we will be getting 2 interns from Indiana University. But for that number of communities, we actually need 6 interns. So Kathy Sipple, who is in the meeting today with NWI, Region Resilience, and Earth Charter, and a lot of you probably know Kathy Sipple. She is actually working on interviewing and hiring the additional 4 interns we will need, so that we have 6 to complete the project. The first kind of steps are that each community will have to fill out a survey. I started the survey for the region, but some information about each jurisdiction's utility, server, service, and things like that will need to be provided to IU from the survey, because they initiate the conversation, especially with the bigger utilities, to request data. So they we'll be sending that information out to all the cities as soon as we get the right contact person to do the survey. And let's see, the interns will do kind of a training boot camp in April. We are going to host, dogs, go away. We are going to host a webinar for all of our communities, just one for Northwest Indiana. They're doing one for all the state participants, but we're going to have one just for ours, since it will be a little different, I think, the way we organize it. And I was going to look up at the date for that. Kathy, do you want to add anything?
Just I want to echo what Bill said, that we really do appreciate NERC taking this on. You know, I know how busy you are, but I think it's been a great partnership, and you know, just dividing the tasks as we can. We have 4 finalists as candidates that we're hoping to get confirmed for our non-ISDP interns. Hoping to have that wrapped up within the next week or two. All 4 of them are from the region, so we're very excited that we'll have, I think, a very diverse and good representative cross-section of students that really represent the communities that are part of this. So yeah, the only thing I want to say, Kathy, is I think that boot camp is in May rather than April.
Yeah, May 6th, the EMPC time slot.
And yeah, and then the boot
That's
camp
right.
is later in the month. It's
Okay.
kind of like, I think, the Thursday and Friday before Memorial Day. I think you handled it well. I just want to say we're also now looking forward to the next phase, which is climate action. We haven't been able to do very much on that yet, but simply having the data from the inventory project isn't going to do us much good. We also want to try to raise some funds so that we can offer that to communities to form climate action plans as well.
Oh, so yeah, we applied for an Indiana American Water grant yesterday, hopefully to do that, keep that going.
Yes.
Yeah, so if you are a staff person from a jurisdiction, one of the ones I just rattled off, we will be having kind of a introductory virtual webinar during the EMPC time slot on May 6th. So from 9 until 11. So look for that invitation to come towards you shortly. And I don't know if people have any other questions about that. I thought in light of that coming on board, that it'd be great to hear from the 2 communities who already did this project, essentially, so we could know what to expect and what we will learn from these. But I don't know if anyone has any questions right now about how the regional thing will work.
Kathy, this is Kay Nelson. I brought forward this update that you had provided to me a couple days ago to the Forum Environmental Committee this morning, and they are most interested in understanding completely what these communities are going to be needing to acquire with regards to data. As they had pointed out, and I reported to this group a couple months ago, and they reemphasized today, they have annual GHG reporting requirements to EPA that are publicly available and are public information, and therefore they would prefer that that information is being used rather than any modeling type of estimations going forward, so that we do have the best scientific information available. So I will look forward to getting onto a distribution list of information updates from you all, and that's all I wanted to do, is just share that. Thank you.
Okay. And we're all going to learn more about that too. I think that the basis is on their purchased electricity and gas, but I think for our utilities that will be a little, or our industries that will be perhaps incomplete, because some of them have cogen, they have other sources. So maybe that's something we can add a value to the project that wouldn't be part of the standard routine, but we'll have to learn as we go along. But I think that's actually a good entree. If nobody has any other questions about the regional inventory, I think one of the things we're challenged at NERC, and Scott's going to be thinking this through, is our the regional transportation model is based on transportation analysis zones, which are kind of statistically derived triangles or polygons or weird shapes, and so they're not going to divide out evenly on jurisdictional lines. So that will be somewhat interesting how we fit that peg into these projects. May just be the 3 counties and be comprehensive for everyone, but that's one of the technical challenges we're working on in order to be ready for this. So if nobody has any other questions, maybe I should look in the chat. Where did it go? Okay, there's no other questions, so I guess we can do the next agenda item. Bill, you want me to just?
Absolutely, absolutely.
Okay, so the city of Gary did this exact climate, well, not exact, but this climate inventory a couple years ago. So I asked them to present about their project and how it worked and what they learned. And so Celeste will be as a sustainability coordinator, and Brenda Scott Henry, you'll know, is the environmental director. And so they will be presenting on their project. Celeste, do you want to take it away, or Brenda?
Good morning. Thank you, Kathy.
Mhm.
So yeah, we are happy to share with you our experience in going through the greenhouse gas inventory project. So Celeste, do you have the slides that you want to pull up?
Yes, I will share my screen.
Okay. So the city of Gary began this initiative only because it was a part of what our leadership was already doing. So the previous mayors, I even found out that even Mayor Hatcher was one of the first person to become one of these green mayors that way back in the 70s and moving initiatives forward in terms of doing things more sustainable. And even today, we still keep that position as a U.S. climate mayor. Mayor Prince is participating in those monthly meetings that we have with mayors all across the United States who are coming together on certain issues to move the climate agenda forward. So having the support of your leadership is paramount in terms of doing a greenhouse gas inventory. Prior to doing the greenhouse gas inventory, we did a list of all of the sustainable development projects that we've had in the city. And this was definitely the work of us having that strong cities, strong communities designation where we had EPA, HUD, and Department of Transportation, as well as Department of Labor, to work with us to get some projects off the ground. So from that, we were able to, get the city departments involved in certain activities that we were doing. So we have a whole laundry list of sustainable development projects that we did. And this was one of the first interns that we received from Indiana University to help us to do that. We've spent hours interviewing city departments, creating fact sheets, and identifying where our goals are in terms of moving toward a climate action plan. So once we finished with the inventory list, we had 2 interns. One was an AmeriCorps Vista, Miriam Stevens, and the other one was Arena from Indiana University, who actually pulled together the data to complete our greenhouse gas inventory. I would assure you that Indiana University has a great cohort of communities that will be working together. So there's great synergy in terms of your interns and whoever is the designated department head that will be working with the intern to move your project forward. So it's great to have that work plan in place in order to meet your benchmarks. Now, I have to say that it's a lot of work in terms of data collection, but because we had already done our inventory, it was a little bit easier for us. I think the most challenging thing that you will find is getting on the calendars of department heads who will support the work that you're doing. So having your mayor, some of the core leadership of your cities to push out an email to say that this is coming down the pipeline will be helpful for you in opening those doors. So with the city, within our administration, there's several tiers of the directors, and so you have departments that are working together on certain things, and you have other cohorts of departments that are working together. So, and they're all communicating with each other on a regular basis. So for us, it works. But when you have smaller communities, then no, may work even better because you don't have so many people to talk to. But we have several departments to work with. And so with that, I think that one of the programs that we work with, a partnership with the Department of Energy, and I would encourage each community to become a member or a partner with the Department of Energy in their better buildings. This is also a lot of information that you can get your hands on in terms of opportunities to move your climate action plan forward. So once you do the greenhouse gas inventory, you set in these benchmarks, then you need to start putting things into action. So it's important that you start identifying resources to help you move that agenda forward. Build relationships with your federal and state agency. NIPSCO was a part of our Department of Energy program. And in that, we were trying to develop an action plan so that we could bring clean energy to a low-income community. And so that was a big challenge. And so we did a combination of renewable energy and energy efficiency activities that we pulled together that will make it work well. This will help you address that population who may not be able to tap into renewable energies, but everybody can do energy efficiency projects. So a relationship with the Department of Energy is important. And then here comes ERI again, and we're working on our climate action plan. And so once I should say that once we completed our greenhouse gas inventory, the interns helped us pull together a resolution. And that was Mayor Cortesta. I have to give Miriam her props because she worked really hard on this. And then from there, we had it passed by council last year. And so we're moving forward with our climate action plan. And that's the background. And I turn the remainder of this presentation over to Mary, Celeste.
Hi, everyone. Thank you very much for having me. I'm Celeste Copperell. I'm a second year Master's of Public Affairs student at IU Bloomington. Started out as part of the resilience cohort with ERI last summer and have been extremely fortunate to work with Brenda and her team. And I'm staying on to finish up the climate action plan on a part-time basis with the department and also help out however I can with Brenda's work. So like Brenda just mentioned, last summer to kick off the climate action planning process, we presented the climate action resolution before Common Council, which essentially calls for the city to reduce its greenhouse gas emissions, to create a climate action plan, and it also provides a directive for city departments to include climate planning and to include resilience goals in their policy making. So as part of that process, it was very helpful because we were able to have conversations with the mayor, have conversations with different department heads, and get on the same page moving forward for the climate action plan. So now, oh, and as I'm doing this overview of the greenhouse gas inventory, please feel free to let me know if you have questions or would like me to explain anything in more detail. So this is the City of Gary community-wide emissions chart. This is based on 2017 numbers. So our inventory was conducted in 2019, which included data from a lot of different sources, from EPA, from Department of Transportation, from NIPSCO, from individual businesses. So the list goes on, but this all came together, and this is essentially the snapshot of what the City of Gary's emissions look like. So it totals about 12.5 metric tons, million metric tons of CO2e, which is CO2 equivalent. The biggest emissions come from industrial energy, which isn't surprising because the City of Gary is very industrial based. And the waste component, which is about 1%, is broken down into solid waste and wastewater treatment. And transportation comprises rail transportation, on-road and off-road vehicles, public transit, and aviation. And then the industrial processes I mentioned primarily focused on US Steel and Carmeuse Lime. I'll get to this as I get towards the end of the slides talking about our climate action planning process, but we have been in contact with both US Steel and Carmeuse about the city's climate action goals and ways that we can collaborate. So this is a picture specifically of the, oh, sorry about that, of the industrial energy piece. Stationary energy piece. And so that includes industry. It's comparing electricity versus natural gas. Also, other fuels were a big contributor to the city's overall energy portfolio. And this is primarily from the industrial processes. So that comes from coal, alternative fuels, blast furnace gas, etc. Oh, sorry about that. Go back. Okay, so this is the industrial processes and products. So emissions are based on large facilities, industrial facilities within city limits, which emit more than 25,000 metric tons of CO2e per year. So this is what was included in the inventory. And as mentioned previously, it largely came from those two industrial companies. This is, oh yeah, go ahead.
Because we do air quality permits locally, we're able to have access to that data. But for other communities, you can definitely go to IDEM. Every industrial facility is required to report out their emissions on an annual basis, their greenhouse gas emissions on a monthly basis, on a yearly basis.
And then moving into transportation, this includes emissions from on-road and off-road vehicles, rail transportation, aviation, and road public transit. And this sector accounts for 3% of the total community-wide emissions. And the largest proportion of emissions came from on-road transportation, with 98% of emissions landfill is the largest contributor to emissions, and secondarily, 27% of solid waste emissions were from the Gary Sanitary closed landfill. And the total municipal solid waste generated is about 8,000 tons. So getting all of this information, while it's very helpful in the ICLEI software that Kathy mentioned previously, to be able to see not only the percentage that solid waste makes up, for example, but then being able to see specifically where the emissions are coming from, because when you look at the overall community-wide emissions, solid waste seems like a tiny amount, but when you actually zoom in on the actual picture, you can see where opportunities are to make targets and emissions reduction goals. This is the pie chart of local government operations emissions, which is a lot smaller. I think local government emissions for the city are less than 1% of the community-wide emissions. So this is the breakdown of what it looks like. The largest contributor to greenhouse gas emissions at the local government level is solid waste, which is about 38%. And the total solid waste generated by government operations is about 17 tons. And this is from 2017. So definitely, as I believe our resolution calls for a revamp of the greenhouse gas inventory every 3 years, or perhaps 5, but it's every few years. And I think that it'll be interesting to see how the emissions from waste and transportation have changed, especially this past year due to COVID. And so this is just some information about where we are with our climate action plan. Last summer, we kicked it off by creating a community-wide survey, which surveyed citizens on their experiences with climate change. It also, we had a separate business survey to see which businesses were engaging in sustainability practices. And the survey also enabled citizens to provide their input on the climate action plan. So that was very helpful in terms of focusing in on which strategies we wanted to choose for the plan, and also just which overall topics we wanted to cover. So our main focuses are energy, air quality, emissions surrounding buildings, which are very high, waste and wastewater, and environmental justice. So we have been working with an advisory committee that we pulled together in the fall. They've been extremely helpful in monitoring our progress with the climate action plan, providing feedback on how our writing is looking and if we're off track on any of our targets or background information. And we've also relied quite a bit upon the ICLEI organization to help with emissions goals and with technical support for how to enter in emissions reduction strategies, because in the ClearPath tool, it doesn't have every possible reduction strategy possible. Like there are certain things that are missing that were included in the survey or have come out of stakeholder conversations. But with what is in ClearPath, there's a lot of really helpful things. Like we can do projections for if industry were to reduce their energy by this amount, then we'll see, you know, X amount in greenhouse gas emissions reductions. Or if, you know, this many streetlights are replaced with LEDs, like you will see a certain amount of emissions reduction that way. And our overall timeline for completion is to be done and presented to Common Council by the end of this year. So we're making good progress and are excited to continue working on it. And please let us know if you have any questions.
This is Kathy. I have a question, or maybe a conversation point for later, is that we have also asked if we can use 2017 for the regional inventory, so that we'll all be on the same baseline, because Michigan City did 2017 also. So I don't know what you're planning on for your when you go back and check again your repeat kind of inventory.
Yeah,
I
okay.
can't say, but if we like, it'd be interesting if we could line that up, right? So, because if you do 3 years, that would be like now. But if you did 5 years, then we could do 3 years, and then we'd all be on the same year. But I also don't want you guys to wait 5 years if you're on have a good energy, which it sounds like you do. So that was just more like a thought to talk about for future. And as soon as I unmute, they bark. It's like a rule or something. Does anybody else have questions?
Yes, we can make the presentation available to someone.
Okay.
Yes, so.
Thank you, Brenda.
Um,
This is Kay Nelson, and
Oh,
there were a lot of questions that I had during the course of the presentation, but not having a copy in front of my face to reference back to whatever slides they were on. I just throw out general questions. I appreciated Brenda's comment on the fact that you had used the greenhouse gas reporting that Carmoose and US Steel had made. So that confirms what my guys are hoping for with the process going forward. But I wanted to make certain, did I understand you correctly, that you used the actual reporting documentation and did not do a modeling of the GHG for those two industries?
No, we have actual, so the city of Gary does a air quality permit locally, something that most communities are not doing. So we permit the equipment that has the potential to emit. So we have the data in-house. And we do not permit, we do our permitting for US Steel, Carmoose, and many other industries that are in the city. We have about 100 and over, close to 200 industries in the city that we permit.
I have a quick question. If we don't have that data in-house as a municipality, you said item here, is that right?
So for the landfill, we are required to do an annual greenhouse gas report to EPA. So you will find some of that information there. I mentioned that you should definitely connect with the Department of Energy because they have so many tools and information that they've already have available for communities that are trying to move into this.
So how much of that did the interns do versus staff? Like if you don't have it easily available and then you have to go looking at the Department of Energy.
Yeah, so that was because I already had a relationship. So I brought it to them, but they were able to dig through the data. I didn't.
Yeah, okay.
Well, Kathy, this is Kay again. From what I understood from my members this morning, they have a reporting requirement for GHG to be submitted to EPA on an annual basis. Yeah,
we'll be able to get that for the big ones, right? It's did you say 25 tons? Anyway, I have a question about the solid waste, because when I've tried to come up with county or municipal specific solid waste numbers or recycling numbers for the 2040 and 2050 plan, I found this very challenging. Do you guys and Gary, do you contract out garbage and recycling, or do you do that in within the city?
Yeah, our trash is outsourced.
Outsourced. So
we could get the data.
But you were able to get the city specific?
Yes, based upon your invoices.
Okay. You're laughing. Does anybody have other?
I have a quick question. if I may. Thank you for the report. So for the transportation figures, do those also account for transient transportation, or are they solely from vehicle owners or the fleets within your city? I wasn't sure that I caught all of that. With the toll road, 8094, those figures seem a bit low to me for the in the overall with just the 3%, when transportation accounts for is the number one cause, number one source of greenhouse gas emissions on a national level. That number is about 28% nationally. So I was just curious as to what sectors you were grabbing there.
Yeah, we weren't able to collect all of the data that we needed for this. But
Sure.
We got as much as we could, and NERC helped us with some of that information. Well, most of it actually. And then we worked with we talked to the Department of Transportation, some of the local folks around here to get data. I can't tell you in detail how they did that, but I would have loved to have Miriam Stevens on, because she was just adamant about getting good data for us.
Miriam was great. I remember working, we talked with her a few times. So I was just curious, because that number, when you compare it to the national, is just so different. I thought perhaps it was just your own fleet or just your own residential owners.
It was our vehicle inventory and whatever else we could grab.
Sure.
So you guys will probably fall into the same challenges of not being able to get as much information as good data as you can. But I hope that you don't get stuck on that. Just move forward with whatever you can, the best information that you can get. Because if you start getting stuck kind of, you're not going to finish your report in the time that you have to complete it. And we can always go back and do an update later on, but based upon what we have now, we can definitely set some goals.
If we can help with that in any way for any of the counties or communities with any of the data sources we have, Clean Cities is a Department of Energy resource. If we can help in any way, please let us know.
Okay.
I don't know if Scott's still on, but I do know when we do the transportation modeling for conformity, the local transportation analysis zones use registered vehicles from the BMV. The freight models for the major interstates are national truck moving around models. So that is probably the least local specific piece of the transportation model that I'm aware of. And I don't know how much that, really, how much that is location specific, in its scope. And I don't know if Scott's still on or not. He might have, I was looking to see. But we'll be able to explore that more when we get into it.
Kathy,
Don't get too
I
stuck
have
in
another
the
question.
because you won't finish your project in time, and so.
Yeah. Kay had another question.
Okay.
Celeste, your slide on landfills had U.S. Steel as a fairly significant part of the pie. Where did you get the data for that information? I mean, did U.S. Steel submit that?
So anyone that is operating a landfill, and I'm over the closed landfill for the city, but that information is available in the virtual file cabinet. You just have to dig through it a little bit, but they're reporting on a monthly basis. I know we have to. Some may not have to, but the virtual file cabinet will give you those.
So that U.S. Steel is reporting that to IDEM, and it's getting in the virtual file cabinet.
Yeah, all
That's what it sounds like.
regulated. All regulated landfills, let's say that, because some of them would just, we have one that, some that haven't been, they were just many decades ago that they're finding, and the state is now requiring them to manage those closed landfills that were not regulated, kind of like they're doing us.
Like dumps, like the old dumps. Okay.
With no liners, and then they're holding you accountable though. So that's about to change, and you'll be able to get that data.
Brenda.
I had a question. This is Susan. So I know right now you're in the middle of the climate action planning, and I just wondered how in that plan does that consider things like land cover types and canopy cover and things that can help determine how those efforts will help you meet your targets?
Yes. And so all of the plans that we're working on, like the urban forestry plan, the green infrastructure planning work that we are doing, we need to revisit our recycling because recycling has changed for us altogether. So we will begin to work with departments on some goals that we have set for them, or we work together, found their strengths, and we will build upon those strengths and set targets so that we can reach those goals that we've established for our climate action plan. So yes, our tree canopy is definitely going to be one of those, which ties also into our green managing stormwater as well.
And Susan, partly to answer your question is one of the reasons I want to go and do the 17 the same year they did is because I think a lot of our tree planting has happened since then. I know there have been a lot of restoration projects since then. So we can actually, then when we do a few, we can say, okay, this was what it was in 17 and we know all these things happened since then. When we go and do it again in like 2022 or whatever year, we can actually calculate reductions that have happened. I hope.
Exactly. To provide that inventory of sustainable development projects that you have going on is so important right now. So those are going to be goals that you set for yourself. So if you decided to start incorporating, if you're participating in the solar program, or you're in the Green Fleet program, or whatever it is, or you're doing some, use those programs to help set your targets. One of the
if I could just
is take these plans that we're working on, for example, the urban forestry that TNC is helping us with. Well, we'll have our planner and zoning administrator to start setting policy and codes to help us meet those goals. So it's exciting time.
I just wanted to make sure we didn't overlook things that NIPSCO is doing with converting right-of-ways to prairie, and then, as you said before, any restoration efforts, Kathy, that are been going on. But any other sort of turf to prairie conversions that have happened are helpful. So
restoration of wetlands. So we have a really robust conservation initiative going on in the city, thanks to many partners. So please get partners. Partners are wonderful.
Do you either of you guys know if because I know NIPSCO has the you can buy the cleaner energy. When you get the electric data, is it adjusted for that? Like how many people are buying that kind of electricity versus?
So they just started doing that.
Oh,
so
it might not have been there in 17.
It wasn't there when we were trying to.
Okay.
They announced to me in, I think it was 2019.
Oh.
They said to us that they were, they were pursuing 20 megawatts. Megawatts of clean energy. That was amazing. When they were only looking at 1 megawatt a year, remember? 1 megawatt a year, they were distributing them on all communities. So they're looking at doing something like 2,300 by 2023. That's
huge.
Good term.
Mhm. Does anybody have other questions for Gary? Nope. Well, I also invited Michigan City also has done the inventory before, and I invited city council person Dahlia Zygas to I did not ask her to do a whole PowerPoint or anything, but because they did have their report available, although I did forget to send it to everybody ahead, so I apologize for that. And more or less, I just thought if people have questions for them about their inventory, what's happening in Michigan City as a result of it, more of a general discussion. Maybe Dahlia, you could talk a little bit about, I know you guys have a sustainability commission. So.
All right, great. Thank you. Good morning, everyone. And yeah, so I really loved Gary's presentation. It's very nice. And it kind of shows you the difference between, you know, leadership that really is interested in this and not. So, you know, we did the greenhouse inventory, as you said, 2017. You know, and it was nice. And that was the one the Sustainability Commission got started. I was the first chair of that. And so we were enthusiastic and worked on that. We had a change in city leadership and less enthusiasm, I'll have to be honest right now, with environmental issues. So the Sustainability Commission has really taken over and led all of our green initiatives. And I see that Nancy is on here, and I would ask if she would just chime in after I'm done, because she'll even tell you more. So they have been carrying the mantle here. And, you know, I'm sad to say that we have not been working on a climate action plan. We did get a start for that, but like I said, you know, I think we have to take a look at what we can and cannot do at this point. So that is something we do want to work on. I'm hoping the American Rescue Plan will have maybe some environmental levers that we could use to get a few of these additional projects online. At this point, we don't even have a city forester. So like I say, we don't have enthusiasm for green projects at this point. We hope that, you know, gets maybe reinvigorated. Let's put it that way. So I think our follow-up was the largest energy use that we can affect was transportation of trash. You know, it was a solid waste component. And the Sustainability Commission has gotten recycling bins into all of our parks, which was not happening before. And our lakefront reach is scheduled to have that as well. So that's one way we can affect the solid waste. No problem. The Sustainability Commission is working on getting citizens signed up for Carbon Neutral Indiana, where they offset their carbon use, you know, in a variety of ways. The Sustainability Commission, again, this is all under Nancy's watch, has won grants to install electric vehicle charging stations at 2 different places, at the new train station we're about to get, and also at 5th and Pine. And then we have a group of Solar United Neighbors. It's a cooperative group that's going to be, I believe, hiring contractors to do solar installations in the city. And we also have gotten something called the Soul Smart designation, which is, I think, going to help with solar installation training. And what I'm going to do is maybe if we can have Nancy chime in and just kind of maybe fill in the blanks, because she's been carrying the sustainability load right now for the city. So I don't know if Nancy, do you have anything to add to that?
Is Nancy muted? Where did Nancy
go? Yeah, I am. Okay, no, I'm not. I'm so sorry. Thank you, Dahlia, for giving that overview. I do believe that there is excitement in Michigan City around sustainability, and also around a movement of the citizens of Michigan City. We recently have had a whole citywide cleanup of trash through the Greater Michigan City Green Clean movement. And I'll have to say my sustainability commissioners are also very excited and very committed to what we're doing. So what may be seen as lack of leadership from the administrative office, our city commissioners certainly are behind what we're doing. And having Dahlia on the commission as our past chair for sustainability certainly helps bring the message to them. Michael Mack, the current president of the city council, was our last liaison for the commission. And also too, we have various people that have been involved in sustainability projects over the years, like Councilman Don Prisbalinski. He was the one that first brought the city efficiency study to the buildings, replaced all of the lights with LED bulbs. All of you are familiar with Mike Cuss, who's in charge of our sanitary district, and all of the absolutely marvelous programs he's had, reducing electric usage at our treatment plant. And so we have a whole bunch of leaders in Michigan City, and I firmly believe we're going to be able to bring the mayor along with us, because I think our enthusiasm is contagious and it's very hard to ignore what we've been doing in spite of what our new administration has been enrolled in. I just want to comment on one thing that Dahlia had mentioned regarding our participation in SoulSmart. We were just accepted into that program by the IAU Sustainability Resilience Cohort just a couple weeks ago. The mayor signed off on that. He's behind it. He's paying for it. So I'm seeing a little bit of our enthusiasm actually being caught by him. So I'm very hopeful for the future. I think it's very hard for a mayor to ignore a whole group of citizens that are really committed to making a difference for their community.
Thank you. Does anyone have questions for Michigan City? I think that one of the reasons I like these two different examples is because you can use the inventory either way, right? You guys are using it almost from a bottoms up way and sideways and all different ways. And then Gary's doing it a little more top down, but so it's kind of an interesting case study to see, because some things nobody can control. People have to just do stuff. So that's one of the reasons I like that the two different stories as far as bringing the whole thing to a regional scale. So, and different cities can do what they're inclined to do. So anyway.
Kathy, I would just like to add, and we will get there. Sometimes it's easier so once we finish this process, we have a citizen group that is helping us pull this climate action plan together. But I just want to compile it all, put it together, and we give it to the sustainability commission that we will establish, advisory council that we will have, and let citizen drive our plan. Yeah, it's important.
Does anybody have other questions? I think I'm going to be hoping that when we get the interns on board that, you know, you guys can also be resources for them when if we get stuck, or the other communities, right? How did you figure this out? You guys will be our mentors. So any other questions or ideas?
We can move on, I guess. Okay. Thank you everybody for those presentations. That was really great. And thank you for sharing the PowerPoints too. I look forward to look at those even closer. Do we have any, before we get to announcements, I was wondering, and maybe it's more a question for staff, and I don't know if Joe's still on the call. Yeah, on the wetland bill downstate, that Senate Bill 389, if anyone's heard anything new on that. I've been trying to follow it. I had heard there might be a compromise on that, rather than just gutting all the wetland regulations for the state for the isolated wetlands, but I hadn't heard anything. I didn't know if I just want to touch base with everybody on the call. Some great minds on this, so I thought I'd reach out.
Hi, this is Joe. I haven't really heard anything new other than some reports that have come across some of the groups that I follow on email listservs. The one discouraging thing is and it's been from a couple of different groups that they've been shut out of conversations as of late. So still the the push for residents of Indiana to reach out, to kind of push back at this, so we can find a compromise that works out for everybody. Because I mean, we all kind of know the impacts of losing wetlands, especially with flood regulation. So, I mean, that's something that most citizens would understand, right? There is the impact of flooding. So,
I was on a call on Friday, and it seemed like there were a lot of amendments flying around to varying degrees of good, better, worse, different degrees, and I'm not sure which ones are on the ascendancy. I don't know if Kay's still on, if she.
I am, Kathy. The House Environmental Committee is chaired by Representative Douglas Gutwein, and to his credit, he allowed pro and con testimony to alternate back and forth when he heard this bill in committee a week or so ago. That's unlike how the Senate Environmental Committee managed the testimonies. Opposing testimony had very little time in the Senate Environmental. There have been amendments introduced. Some have failed. Senator Italian attempted to put an amendment on the bill, went with still on the Senate side, calling for this to go to an interim study committee, and that was soundly defeated. It is now, as I mentioned, it's now on the House side. The session is by law to conclude April 29th, but we have been told that the members of the House and Senate are in agreement that they should be able to conclude the session by April 21st. Which means basically there at a maximum are 2 opportunities for the House Environmental Committee to reconvene. To date, it is not scheduled to meet next week at all, the week of the 5th. So that would leave the week of the 12th for it to reconvene. One of the reasons why they feel they can get out early, out of session early, is there has been a concerted effort to make certain that any bills that flipped chambers and had additional language produced can be negotiated and written in such a fashion so that the House of Origin agrees to the language change and the bill does not have to go to a conference committee for settlement. So I suspect that that would certainly be the case for this bill. So there's no answer as to how it's going to turn out for you in that report, but just some of the nuances of information that's going on as well. So there you go.
Okay, and I don't know if you've seen anything or if anybody else on the call has seen anything. One of the points that has kind of frustrated me is the confusion, or exactly with the different classes of wetlands out there, 1, 2, 3, and so forth, which seems to be kind of a cascading effect on how much they've been impacted and what is actually an isolated wetland. I've seen some of the opponents against the bill kind of putting stuff out there that showing like what they were considering isolated wetlands, and I'm like looking at them, I'm like, you're showing stuff that's in a floodplain. How is that not connected? So or isolated, thank you. So just some of the accuracy of the data out there and so forth. I'm kind of wondering if the decision makers have everything they need to make these important decisions.
Point.
Well, there are certain aspects of environmental control that I willingly and fervently believe I have not enough details on, even though I've spent 44 years working on environmental issues. Wetlands and air are the 2 main categories there. I share your concerns, not just on this particular bill, but on historical large environmental bills at both the state and the federal level. We often think that our elected officials are geniuses on all topics. Sorry, Bill. But they're human and they're not. And they are limited to what their staff expertise has, because they're the ones that are reading the bills many times and then making recommendations for positions. I am a strong supporter of interim study committees for that very reason. It's not 100%, but it's an improvement. And sadly, this didn't get that accepted into the language by Senator Italian. It has been evident in some of the testimony that people don't understand the difference between the core and item and DNR permitting and oversight. And, you know, a nice diagram would have probably been a great tool for someone to have provided earlier discussion.
I have that pinned to my wall. Who regulates what? It's a map in my office that I haven't seen in months.
You know, scan and send that to me. I'd love to have that in my.
I don't know, it might be old, but
Better than what I got.
yeah.
Bill, I have some announcements about some funding opportunities and some related educational events, if that's all right.
Great. We can, and unless anybody else has a comment on the wetland pending, we can move on to announcements. Thank you, Lori.
Sure, thank you. So I appreciate the reports from our communities earlier. You know, just to echo what Brenda said about partnerships and the Green Fleet program, you know, we are contracted with NERC to run that. That helps folks. We can come in and do an analysis of your fleet and then make some recommendations for reducing emissions. So just contact us. That's what we're here for. The same with Partners for Clean Air locally. You know, we work with them again through our contract with NERC. We have some events coming up for both that can help. As far as Partners for Clean Air, you know, that program used to really, Kathy and I had this discussion recently, nearly every one of our communities used to be a member. And at the bronze and green levels, there's no cost. All you have to do is commit to take anywhere from 1 to 3 actions to reduce your impact on air quality action days. So those start in May. This is the time, not just for your the communities participating, but for all of them. So I'm going to share that link in the chat here in a while. So, and also in terms of those connections to our federal agencies, our state agencies, Clean Cities is a DOE program. We have those connections. And then also with the federal and state agencies for funding to help you move these plans into action. So please consider us as a resource. That's what we're here for. That also includes, good segue, hopefully, the IDEM VW funding. The IDEM and the committee on March 23rd announced round 3 of the funding for the on-road and non-road programs. There's a total of 12 million available for this round, and those proposals are due June 1st. We have 2 webinars coming up with Sean Seals from IDEM with details about that. The first is going to be April 13th from 1 to 2 p.m. That's specifically for school bus fleet operations. I don't think we have a lot of folks on this call for whom that applies, but we may. And then April 15th from 1 to 2 is kind of our general on-road, non-road fleet webinar. You can register for those on our website, southshorecleancities.org. And we're also here to help you with your grant applications. So contact us on those. There's also the FTA low, no emission bus program grants. Those are for transit vehicles, and they're accepting applications through April 12th. So the clock is ticking. If you have questions on those, let us know. I'd mentioned Partners for Clean Air. Their virtual award ceremony is coming up April 30th. We're running that for them from 10 to 11:30. I know it seems like they just did this in August. It's because last year's was delayed due to COVID. They were going to try to have it in person, couldn't do it. But this is it. We usually do it around Earth Day. IDEM Commissioner Bruno Piggott will give his State of the Air as the keynote speaker. And then Shannon Zarrett from the U.S. Department of Energy will be speaking. This is good for your communities and municipal participants in your emissions program. And we're also going to be awarding our scholarships and our annual awards. So you can register online for that also on our website. I already mentioned, I'm looking through my notes, encouraging folks to be members of Partners for Clean Air. Also said it's a great time to get involved with the Green Fleet program. Please consider doing that. I'm going to send that information as well. Next week, April 7th, We have a non-road equipment webinar at 1. This is mainly for property maintenance. So for your communities, for your parks departments, folks out mowing your lawns, maintaining your property, things like electric and propane lawnmowers and some of those options and some funding for those. Again, you can register on our site.
Lori, does that also include like non-road? Does that include like construction stuff too? Like bulldozers or generators or like pump generators and stuff?
That term generally does. So that when it comes to some of the diesel powered things that VW will fund, I think you could look more toward that one. This one specifically is more for kind of that property maintenance arm of that. So it kind of breaks down into different branches.
Yeah.
And then last but not least, please save the date, August 10th. We're excited that our annual conference and expo at the Blue Chip is going to be in person in Michigan City. So keep wearing your masks and get vaccinated so we can keep making this go, right? So registration and sponsorship are gonna open very soon for that. And we look forward to seeing everybody there. I'm gonna put some of these links in the chat. Thanks for giving me the floor.
All right, thank you. Anyone else? Any announcements or things to share? All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for being here today. And it was a good discussion, awesome discussion on greenhouse gases. And I thank you for indulging me in the wetland discussion. And our next meeting is going to be July 1st at 9 a.m. Is there a motion to adjourn?
So moved.
All right, we motion to adjourn. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Opposed? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you, everybody. Nice to see everybody.
Thank you. Bye.
Thank you.
Thanks.